California, Mr. Garamendi, for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the issues that you're raising. I'd like to just pick up on what Ms. Friedman was referring to earlier and make sure that we fully understand where we are with requirements in order to receive FEMA assistance. Mr. Curry, is there any example in the past where a FEMA assistance program, disaster assistance, was conditioned on in any way? Are you familiar with any of that?
I'm not familiar. The only thing I would be familiar with is if it's conditioned on using that for resilience purposes, for building back better than it was before.
I do want to come to that. Mr. Guthrie, you answered no to the question that Ms. Friedman raised about conditions. Is it your view that there should be conditions for the emergency assistance being available to a disaster area? Should there be preconditions?
There should not be preconditions. However, again, to the mitigation piece, benefit cost analysis, should we be applying a BCA to a situation where we want a house out of the floodplain, we want to build a house stronger, just because we meet a number, does that make sense? I don't think so. So I think there should be some preconditions to some programs that say we should waive this or we should make this stronger.
Fair enough, and I would appreciate your coming back with the specifics that you're referring to. Certainly flood, we've been in and out of that for the 15 years I've been here, and yes, we're making some progress. The other area that I want to go to deals with the GAO report. You had 60 recommendations in the GAO report. It would seem to me that this committee its time would be very usefully spent going through those. Mr. Curry, in your testimony, you highlighted, I think, 4 specific areas. I'd like you to revisit those in the next minute or so, the 4 priorities that are on your mind for the legislative policy changes that this committee should spend time on, that you believe we should spend time on.
Yeah. Those 60 recs cut across 4 areas, as you said. First is streamlining the federal disaster recovery process, because it's fragmented. Mm-hmm. The next is
fragmented among multiple agencies.
Exactly, 30 agencies to be sure. Better delivering disaster aid to survivors, making that easier for individual survivors. Reforming the FEMA workforce is number 3. And then number 4 is using our resilience dollars and making resilience programs easier to navigate for state and local governments.
All right. And in each of those areas, you had specific ways in which the improvements could be accomplished, that is legislative.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually 2 years ago, before the reform discussions even started, we recommended that Congress set up its own commission to look at disaster recovery because we were so frustrated that the agencies for years, we were making recommendations, they weren't implementing them. And also this issue cuts across so many committees of jurisdiction. So it is rare that we would recommend something like that, but we thought the problem was large enough that it was warranted.
Okay. Well, you've given me direction on how I should spend my time, and hopefully the committee would similarly spend time on the details of each of these, streamlining multiple federal agencies, maybe eliminate or at least change the way in which they presumably should work together, individual assistance programs. Could you be a little more specific about that?
Well, changing our aid programs to the individual survivor from being government-centric to customer-centric. And what I mean by that is right now, the survivor has to extract the money out of the federal government through a lengthy, frustrating process. And because of that, they don't get everything they could possibly get.
Thank you. Mr. Guthrie, you're nodding your head, and the rest of you would think this is something we ought to deal with?
Yes, sir. I mean, the mere fact that a homeowner may have to wait 4, 5, or 6 years to get back to where they need to be, what we want, all of us want, is that homeowner back on their property in their home.
Yeah, I'm almost out of time. For the 4 of you, if you could present to the committee and certainly to me and my colleagues the specific kinds of reform that you think are most necessary on the individual assistance. On the workforce, we've already talked about the current reductions in workforce, and there's been a discussion on that. With regard to resiliency, FEMA does have a bit of a problem in that Build Back Better is not in their lexicon, or at least in the regulations that they administer. So we need to be aware that we need to change and encourage FEMA to look to resiliency that is really do Build Back Better. More details, I'm out of time. Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady.
Thank you. The gentleman yields